When you think of powerful clone armies, you most likely think of the Grand Army of the Republic. These were the clones who fought countless battles where they were severely outgunned and outmanned, but they still managed to secure the victory. And the Separatists were known for their droid army, but what if I were to tell you that the Separatists not only had their own clone army, but their army was actually more powerful than the clones and could even kill Jedi Knights? These were known as the Morgu Kai Shadow Army. It consisted of Nikto clone warriors. These warriors couldn't just destroy clones, but they could also kill Jedi. But before we get on to that, here's some backstory on who these warriors were. The first of the secret Morgu Kai cult was first originated on the planet of Kenton and was viewed as the most secret group of their entire culture. It was first created by a group of warriors who came together to share their combat experiences as well as their skill and strong hatred of the Jedi and Sith. In their cult, good or bad didn't matter. All that mattered to them was loyalty and honor. Their loyalty and commitment to the cult was so fierce that even under the threat of death or torture, they refused to give up any information about the Morgu Kai cult. This loyalty also meant, though, that leaving the order was not an easy task. If one wished to leave the cult, they first had to give up their armor to one of their brothers, and then walk on the burning moon range, which had 7 active volcanoes. This was so dangerous that almost no members ever survived the walk. But if they somehow managed to survive this impossible task, they would be free to leave, but also would be completely disowned by their former brothers. Despite hating the Jedi, they actually had very similar training method to them. Almost every new member of the cult was assigned to a master to be trained. But unlike the Jedi, they were allowed to bring in family members, which did include children. In fact, most of the time, many masters would choose their own sons to be trained. Another similarity between the two was that the Morgu Kai had to build their own weapon in order to fight. Even though the Nikto species was naturally resilient to Jedi mind tricks, the Morgu Kai still implanted incredibly harsh mental training to train their resilience against Jedi mind tricks. And now to the story. A little before the Clone Wars, the once powerful Morgu Kai cult was reduced down to the point of extinction, and at the time that the war did break out, the cult was on its final members and was finally about to vanish from the galaxy. But despite being around for over 1,000 years, there is still very little known about them, which meant the Jedi knew very little about them. The Morgu Kai, though, would eventually reveal themselves to the Jedi Master Quinlan Vos and Aayla Secura, and there they would try and kill her on Ryloth. But before they could succeed in their mission, they would be stopped by Quinlan Vos, who would kill the Master, who also was the apprentice's father, and cut the hand off of the apprentice. After this failed assassination attempt and the death of his master, Bok, who was his son, was one of the last surviving members of the Morgu Kai cult, if not the last. And from that point on, Bok made it his mission to keep the cult alive along with their traditions. And his wish would come true thanks to the Separatist Alliance, who offered Bok the chance to rebuild the ancient cult, but under the condition that Bok would be the genetic clone template of the new army, which would be used by the Separatist Alliance. And seeing that he had very few choices, he would accept. This process of cloning and training would occur on the planet of Seleucami, where the Separatists slowly built up the new army under the nose of the Republic, and would successfully create thousands of clones until one day Jedi Master Thrawn, who was the Master Clone Vos, would discover this plot. And after discovering it, he would report this right back to the Jedi Council, who would respond with a complete blockade of the planet and begin the siege of Seleucami. This battle, however, would last many months, even until the end of the Clone Wars and Order 66, due to there being such fierce resistance from the Morgu Kai clones. And Master Thrawn, who discovered this, would be tasked with sabotaging the cloning systems in order to stop the production of new clones. And his mission would be a major success when he destroyed much of the cloning facility. But even though these warriors were the direct clone of Bok, a very strong warrior, it was not enough to hold back the clone army, and almost all of the Morgu Kai clones would be killed in this battle, including Bok. But this is not to say that the Republic had an easier time either. They lost a lot of Jedi Knights, including Jedi Council member Appa Rancisis. But even though a large majority of the Morgu Kai army was defeated, there were still the stragglers, and due to this, the battle would drag on to the very last days of the Clone Wars, and after the rise of the Empire, the Morgu Kai religion was deemed illegal and punishable by death, very similar to the Jedi religion. And after this, there would be very few remaining Morgu Kai, and those who did survive would go into deep isolation, and almost none of them would ever be seen again, until one member who was a Jedi was killed by Darth Vader when he attempted to meet up with some other Jedi survivors. And because he left the Morgu Kai order, he was forced to walk through the moon range, and was actually the only person ever to survive it. And after surviving the ordeal on the moon range, he would join the Jedi Order shortly after and would fight in the Clone Wars. It's truly shocking how close the Separatists came to successfully creating their own clone army to fight the Republic. And that is the story of the Separatist clone army. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this topic in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.